Good afternoon, Quasar Markets Live. I have a great show for you today, something I'm very excited about, something different, not finance. I love this. Will Pearce, Attento board. Will Pearce, how are you, man?
I'm doing well this Tuesday. How are you today?
I am good. One of the things I like about this, Will, is that, I'm in the finance world and I got a chance to meet you at a conference in the Carolinas down there. And I tell you, one of the things that I really respected was what you're building and doing. And I want to bring that to the world. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about, first of all, your background and who you are, and then we'll talk about the Attento board. But Will, you have an amazing story that I think everybody needs to hear. So I'm going to get out of your hair. Will, tell the story about your life.
Awesome. Well, it's kind of a unique story, I guess. I'll have to go back to 2014. I was a real estate agent here in Charleston, and at 28, I started having some mental problems. Like I was short-term memory problems. I was having a lot of deja vus, just some things that weren't normal, if you will. And one day I was showing property, and I basically blacked out for the entire day and was basically, that was Friday. I went to the neurologist on Monday, and they said I had suffered from transient global amnesia, which I had never heard of, and actually is a one-time memory loss, and it can go from a couple seconds all the way up to days. And they said that that was one of the, I guess, was a sign of epilepsy. And I was 28 years old, healthy, and I thought they were kidding. And actually, I just thought they were wrong. And sure enough, a week later, I had a full grand mal seizure. So unfortunately, with real estate, you have to depend on driving. And with epilepsy, whenever you have a seizure, you have to give up your license for 6 months, no questions asked. So since I was a new real estate agent and I didn't really have, too much knowledge about epilepsy, I gave up my real estate career. And it really hit me hard, Big Beat. It took the confidence out of my sales, or wind out of my sales. And so I went about almost 2 years without another seizure. And I got a medical device sales job out of Charleston in the Greenville and Atlanta area. And the day before I was supposed to start, I had another grand mal seizure. And that was November 27th of 2016. So I instantly had to give up my driver's license again for another 6 months. And on April 1st, 2017, I was running the Cooper River Bridge Run here in Charleston and was running and collapsed from cardiac arrest. So I flatlined. I was in a coma for 3.5 days, was given a 4% chance of survival, and luckily I was in and out of the hospital in under 8 days. So I'm a medical miracle. So like you said, when we just started, I've kind of got a unique story. So that's kind of, what makes me, unique to people. And that's why we're here. Because like you said, in the Carolinas, we met at that event and we're speaking, and I'm not a finance guy. I mean, I was so, minor leagues, if you will, compared to everyone else that was at the event and stuff. But
Yeah, what's interesting, Will, is that the story you tell is the stories that I like to hear, right? Is that as much bad that goes on around the world, you are a story that is a success and next level because of what you're building and what you're doing. Before we get into that, Will, I think a lot of people always want to know one thing about a person. And, when you look to build this new business, what was the driving force behind the new idea and what you were thinking here?
man, well, you know what? My passion level is so high. Like, when I first started this, everyone says, "Why do you start a business?" And I wanted to help people. And of
Right.
course, people be like, "Well, you need to make money." And at the end of the day, I'm happy with my lifestyle. I'm single, debt free. I've got a dog. I'm good to go. And if I can make my negatives positives for other people, then it's worth it. So that has really kept me going with it and stuff, because I've already cried this morning with a complete stranger, just talking to them about the product and how it's benefiting them. So it's just, I'm very fortunate to be in this situation, and it's just passion that drives me. And
I love it. I
that
love
was,
it. Let's talk about what it is that you've actually built, the Attento board, and
yeah.
what does Attento mean? And let's talk about this a little bit.
Hey, well, you
Show
know
me.
what? I'm sure the people were a little confused at first of, hey, why do you have this good looking guy on here that's not talking about finance? But yeah, so the Attento board is a simple concept. I guess it started during COVID. My buddy and I were looking for some COVID creativity, and we were looking for some basically ways to stay busy. And my friend's grandmother had made a charcuterie and cutting board years ago for her mother, and it had a unique aspect to it because on one side it had pegs to where you could support the casseroles. So I always thought that was a unique, thing, because every cutting board has two sides, just no one uses the backside. So during COVID, we started making charcuterie and cutting boards out of bamboo with that concept. So I realized that it was great for housewarming gifts, wedding gifts. I saw that it had purpose. But one day I was working at a produce stand, and I became friends with this older lady who was losing dexterity in her fingers. And so basically, the simple idea is you can put these pegs around any shape and size object. So right now, I just kind of have them built for motor skills. So my apologies. I'm not at my desk right now because my office is clean. But bear with me for just 1 second, y'all. So you can put it around any shape and size object to prevent it from sliding. So it's a super simple concept. So we started making them for the housewarming gifts, but I really realized that, like I said, I love helping people, and that for some reason I felt that there might be a use in the assistive technology world. So I randomly went online and found these two girls with cerebral palsy and sent them completely unsolicited messages saying, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? And the main reason I reached out to complete strangers is because I know a lot of your listeners and yourself know that when you're starting a business, your friends and family will tell you kind of what you want to hear. And I knew that I was doing something that was completely different, so I wanted to meet complete strangers. So I reached out, and they were like, you know what? They had nothing to lose by being honest with me. And they said, Will, this is a great idea. So I reached out to a company. It's called Accessible or Abilities Expo, and it is a nationwide trade show that goes from city to city. And I reached out and said, hey, I've got this idea. And they actually had closed up the registration, but they opened it. So they're like, you know what? You've got a cool idea. So I flew out to Dallas, didn't know what I was doing, and I blew people away. Like Big Beat, I get goosebumps on like just
Wow.
the reception that I got, because I was next to FEMA and Toyota with their $140,000, accessible minivans and stuff, and I had a $50 piece of plastic, that can help people. And they were like, thank you for being simple and just open-minded.
And let's talk about that a little bit. What does the board? Who does it help? Like, did they like the word disability or abilities? I think you went through that with us. What is it they'd like to be called, and who is the board actually for?
Yeah, so I guess the most important thing is, so the term disabled and such. The handicap placard is what really throws people off, because that's a pretty negative term, handicap, because people are disabled and not handicapped. So handicap makes it more limiting and such. And but one thing that I told you when we first spoke is how I'm almost 40 years old, and when I was growing up, you'd see someone with a disability, and my parents would say, "Oh, don't stare," or something like that. But now I'm telling people, hey, tell your kids to say hello, go up and talk to someone, ask questions, and engage them as a human being, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's just to be created equally. So the board really, the main focus is people with disabilities and the elderly, because I have every right to be in the position that a lot of the people I'm helping should be in. Because I mean, when I was in the hospital, walking around doing my therapy and stuff, I mean, I saw into rooms where I just can't imagine. Of course, I'm starting to tear up, but just knowing that I'm helping those kind of people really keep me going and stuff, because, I was healthy. I was running the bridge run. And next thing I know, they're like, Will, you were in a coma for 3.5 days.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that can happen to anyone. And I've realized that the disabled community is one of the fastest growing, but most underrepresented communities, if you will.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of very cool stories, and I'll go ahead and bring this up to everybody here so you can see it. The Attento board website is attentoboard.com, and I'll put that up there for everybody so they can see that. But you have some pretty cool stories to tell as well. So can we do that for people out there right now? Tell us a couple of these stories that made me cry too when I heard your story.
Hey, well, yeah, this is of course when I get to the crying part, but I've realized there's no shame in crying. People ask me, Will, when was the last day you cried? And I have to look at my watch and be like, what time is it? Give me a few hours. But so people are attento actually means careful in Italian. I'm not Italian, but when we first started making the boards, we were making them with saws and hand presses. So we'd always say, be careful. And so when it came time to name it, I typed in be careful foreign languages, and Italian was the third one. So Attento board was created. So if you roll back up to the top of the screen, that young girl is Briella. And she was actually one of the first girls that I reached out to. And I've been working with her for 2 years now. And it is unbelievable the difference that the 2 years have done in just, working with me, her speech pathologist. It's unbelievable to personally see the growth that she has done, because she's from, Michigan. She and her mom had no connection to me or anything. But at the end of the day, that smile right there is one of the main reasons I'm here, because I was just on Instagram one night and just saw her photo, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I knew that I had to reach out to her, and sure enough, we're still going strong and stuff like that. So yeah, she's using it in her, it's called a Zing stand, and it's basically just a great multi-use. Basically, it can work for stretching, for posture. And it's such a universal device, but you add the Attento board to it, and look, she can use it for while she's eating. She's using it for therapy right there, for motor skill development. You can just move the pegs around, and so that's Vivi. She's the other girl that I reached out to. She is 26 and from New York, or was 26 at the time, but she uses it in the kitchen. And because I realized, people, they love cooking nowadays. And unfortunately, with a lot of the plates and stuff that are for people with disabilities are suction cups. And I'm sure you've tried to put suction cup stuff on stuff. It doesn't stick to everything.
Yeah, not really.
And usually there's stuff in that suction cup that goes everywhere. So that's when I was kind of like, hey, why isn't there something like this out there? And I'm sure a lot of your listeners are super intelligent, wise people, but sometimes you need to keep it simple. Why didn't I think of an idea as something that I have? And like that little boy right there, little Charlton, he's just working on his motor skills. So I just told his parents to, hey, I don't tell parents or people what to do with the board. I say, this is what I've started it for. Try use it for this. So they just gave it to him, and he was putting them in the holes on the floor. So that's just an extra couple minutes that mom and dad didn't have him looking at the tablet. This right here, Megan, she's visually impaired.
Hmm.
She's using it to paint her fingernails. So that way she can put her fingers in between the pegs and then has all the supplies right there.
Very cool. I like this.
So it started out, and that's my mom. Luckily, she was one of my main inspirations because when I was first going through the whole do I do this idea, she was diagnosed with leukemia. So it was one of those, I really kind of need to go for something and help people. And you know what? So luckily, she's leukemia free as of 2 months ago. But that's just an example of her carrying her food around the house because even when she was in the hospital, eating was tough. So she had to rely on my dad to be there.
And look at this face, man. It makes me smile,
Oh, man. Oh, that right there. So that's little Luke, man. And I'm going to tear up a little bit talking about it.
Good shit. I like it. I love it. Yes.
But man, so he unfortunately he passed away about a year ago. And he was 2 years old and was in his 16th surgery. He was born premature and he was dealt just a tough cards from the get-go. But I tell you what, I only knew him for about 2 months, he and his mom, but he was such a fighter. Like, I got to wipe the tears. But you see that smile, like he's contagious, and right in front of him is my board. Yeah. And so it was just great that he and his parents were finding some joy for a few minutes by using my board. So you got me crying on here in front of these.
I love it. Yeah.
That's the passion. That's the reason I do it, is because I know that I am making my tears smiles for other people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is just, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got the full shirt. Man, this is worse than I cried when we first met, Stephen.
Look, I think a lot of times people don't really understand, what it is that we need to do on earth. Sometimes we go through the motions, and gosh, some people go to college or whatever and they just don't understand, but you found your passion through some bad stuff, and you ended up making, I call it not just lemonade, but tequila and everything else beside it, out of this bad situation. And you've been endorsed by some pretty big companies here and some pretty big places. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so luckily, it all started with the Abilities Expo. And I've been to their one out in Dallas and in Los Angeles. I've been to one in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been to one in South Carolina. And luckily, being a one-man operation and going into an industry where, people are wanting to help each other, they saw, hey, this guy Will is up to something. And it's just been about networking. And I'm paired with, the University of Texas, University of Temple, Kansas School for the Deaf and Blind, South Carolina School for the Deaf and the Blind, the state of Florida, the state of North Carolina. So I've really come a long way from just being a one-man operation, because you would think in a world of today with the technology, something like this should already be about. But for some reason, here we are talking to each other. So luckily, I've just paired with some great people. And, I met you at the event and met some people that have passed me on to other people. So luckily, they see the passion. And I don't mind crying in front of strangers, because if I did, this would be a terrible business for me to be in.
When I hear the word passion, sometimes I roll my eyes and I go, okay, you got a passion. I got a passion too for the fintech world. But when you talk about it you don't talk about it as passion, as passion. You talk about it from the heart. And I think a lot of times people go, okay, well, how was this built out of? You think of it like Facebook, it was built out of meanness, right? It wasn't being mean to girl. You built this out of a need, and obviously necessity, the mother of invention. But you didn't even know that they needed it until they started playing with it. And now you have some great reviews, some great people that you've actually helped, even to the end of their lives. And you are, you look at it from the perspective of what the future holds. And, this is a product that could help millions of people. As you said, this section of people are growing, and you've got an opportunity here to cater this to the whole world, right? And in different languages. And I love this, Will. I really do appreciate your you as a person, because quite frankly, uh, things like this would not be built. We would be building another Facebook or another Twitter, right? Another social media, but this is building it so that people have access and the ability to make their own food and paint their fingernails and live a normal life. And I appreciate that. Crap, man, you're gonna get me crying too, Will.
I know, because it really makes you appreciate things. I mean, I just challenge you, you know, close your eyes and try to make it to the refrigerator in your house. Just something like that. I mean, I met a fella, he's 74 years old, had a stroke, instantly went blind.
Mm.
And he's lived in the same house for over 40 years, and he's still, trying to get his way around it. And I mean, his irritation level is through the roof. So he has one of the boards. I mean, granted, he knows where his bedside table stuff is now.
Right.
And it's just the small stuff. My parents' next door neighbor, she fell off their country house porch and broke her C1 on her vertebrae.
Mm.
And you just never know. And, that's the thing about this product, is it can help so many people. Like, I'm speaking with the state of Texas right now. They just bought 20 to test out in their school system. Their retirement communities, their hospitals, there are so many, but wait, more. There are more uses. Right. And, ideally, I'd love for, a theme park like Disney World to get these. So they're, when their guests are going around the parks, that way they can have the stuff on their lap. That way people can feel more independent. Like you're at a sporting event, that way someone could go to it. There's a great company called One Court that makes tactile like fields, so that way people can feel their way around it. And it's like they're investing into that kind of stuff, but why don't they just get a tray? That way when someone comes and buys a hot dog, they can put it on their lap. It's just there's so many applications and stuff that I'm trying to get it out there and just say, hey, but wait, there's more uses and stuff, because it started out with the charcuterie and casseroles, but now here I am, talking to the state of Texas for schools, because being a one-man operation out of South Carolina, I'm pretty proud of myself.
Oh, you have every right to be proud of yourself. Will Pearce, for those of you who don't know, listen, Attento board, go there to the website. I'm going to show it one more time so everybody can see it. Just to go check it out, attentoboard.com. And I'll post that as well, so you can click on that. Please, just go out there and hang out. I will. You have access to Will. I believe his email is actually on the website too, as well. And look, we all know someone with a disability, and we all know someone this could help. And please click on that. Click that buy button for Will. He's got social media out there as well too. Go click on that as well, and go check him out. He's one of those guys you can just talk to. I sat next to you at the conference and had a great conversation. And here I am talking about changing the world for the financial world, and you're wanting to help the world in a way that I think your heart pours right into your passion, and your passion pours right back into your heart. So, Will Pearce, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you. I'm going to remove myself and all of this, and I'm just going to ask you one last question before I let you go. Mm-hmm. What is it that you see next, right? When you look at the world and all the negativity in it, and people just, not that great, you see the good in the world. You've seen a lot of the good stuff. What is it that we as humans need to start doing in order to spread a little bit of that love around?
Man, well, that's such a big question, but honestly, so I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Manners run deep in us, and just being nice to people is so easy for me to be. But, this is kind of an interesting, so COVID, a lot of people moved to Charleston, and a lot of people from other cities, they don't say hello, and hold the door for other people and stuff. And at first that kind of upset me, but then I realized, hey, that's not everyone. You can't expect yourself out of others. So basically, I just wish the world would be nicer to each other. Like, I hate to say this, some people up north and stuff, I know you're moving fast, but just smile, say hello to someone, because you never know if it might be your last laugh or smile, so that's why I like to get on there and laugh. I mean, Big Beat, you're trying to make people laugh because you never know what's going on. So, even if you're not in the best of mood and you're walking by someone on the street, just say hello. Make eye contact with them just for that 1 second. Be a human, because small things go such a long way. It sounds cheesy, but what's that saying? It's important to, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is just, it's easier said than done. But today, just say hello to a stranger, compliment them on the way their hair looks, hold the door open. It'll make you smile.
I tell you what, I'm in New York this weekend. I think I'm gonna if I stop somebody, just say hello to them I'm gonna get
exactly. And it's like, I'm not trying to steal anything from you. It's like, we just had this moment in time where we're in a close proximity to where, hey. So yeah, if you get looked at, just tell them Crazy Will in South Carolina says, hey, you know what? It is what it is. And actually, you can do this for us. If you can do. So I have these, it says, you are beautiful and Charleston sucks. Tell your friends. So if you could tell people in New York that we need to slow down this northern invasion down here and stuff.
I'll do that. Attentoboard.com. Will Pearce, glad to call you a friend, my friend. And listen, I will see you the next time.
Hey, and I appreciate this. And yeah, I apologize if I wasn't the best guest. I've never really done this before, but I hope you have a great rest of your day, man. And thank you so much for everyone. And yeah, just go out there and have a great day.